just because it's the holiday period that we're seeing this?
You know, a lot of times when I was short at my hedge fund and I was positioned short, meaning I needed it down, I would create a level of activity beforehand that could drive the futures. It doesn't take much money. Similarly, if I were long and I would want to make things a little bit rosy, I would go in and take a bunch of stocks and make sure that they're higher. You know, maybe commit.
So I think he's gonna say commit fraud. No. So we're looking at Jim Cramer say, when I have a short position or a long position, doesn't matter where I am, I'm going to go out and make sure that upward or downward pressure that I need to see self-prophesizes, right? So this is already not supposed to happen, right? You're not supposed to be able to say, I think I want the stock to go down. I want shorting to be the action in which it hurts the stock downward, right? Depending on this interpretation, this is already looking like a criminal investigation needs to happen. So the first 10 seconds, fantastic. He is working at a hedge fund, which has a coordinated position to try and work to the benefit of these wealthy, investors whose funds you are managing, and he is already going out and saying, hey, if I have it doesn't matter what position I have. Either way, I want to actually actively cause the upward or downward price movement that would be beneficial to me. Let's keep listening.
$5 million in capital and do it, and I could affect it. What you're seeing now is it probably is bigger market. Now, maybe you need $10 million in capital to knock this stuff down, but it's a fun game and it's a lucrative game, and you can move it up and then fade it. That's often creates a very negative feel. So let's say you take a longer term view intraday and you say, listen, I'm going to boost the futures, and then when the real sellers come in, real market comes in, they're going to knock it down. It's going to create a negative view. That's a strategy very worth doing when you're valued on a day-to-day basis. And I would encourage anyone who's in the hedge fund game to do it.
You would encourage anyone. He's just a bad, risky uncle. This Jim Cramer is our risky uncle friend. I feel like he would easily be in the position that Melvin and Citadel are in right now if he was at the top, right? I would encourage every hedge fund person to implement these manipulative tactics. This is the culture, rather than the actual shock and awe, the tactics, right? The tactics gives us a sense of exactly what type of manipulation could exist. But beyond that, he's not going to admit to a crime with a date and a specific setting on camera. He's just going to talk about how he promotes this type of culture. And if that's not something that you can bring home and say, do you think that these are the good people that are bragging about this stuff, this culture behind screen? Because that's the end of the day, the most important piece. Is that if you don't think he speaks for you, you don't think he speaks for every hedge fund, he speaks for when he worked at a hedge fund, he implemented this kind of culture. He would recommend it to any hedge fund manager.
Because it's legal, right? And it is a very quick way to make money and very satisfying.
Okay.
By the way, no one else in the world would ever admit that, but I do care.
That's right, and you can say that here.
I can't. I'm not going to say it on TV.
Well, on a related note, there's so many more hedge funds today than when you were managing your hedge fund.
Right.
Do you think that does that exacerbate the moves, or does it make it tougher?
Well, the hedge funds are positioned long short, okay, not just long like mutual funds. So it's really vital these next 6 days because of your payday. You've really got to control the market. You can't let it lift. When you get a research in motion, it's really important to use a lot of your firepower.
You can't let it lift, and you need to use your firepower, right? So this is still teetering on interpretation, whereas okay, where is the firepower coming from? But we've already been talking about how hedge funds have a limited supply of funds, and that funds could be used to hedge against a margin call, right? Just by keeping enough money and staying positive enough with all of your investments, or using those funds to fuel short attacks. And that's just one way that you'll be able to leverage your money with a couple $1 million, and you'll see Cramer talk about in a second, to influence billions of dollars. And that's the insane part, is that he is talking about how there is periods of times where you cannot allow pieces of the market to work naturally. He's saying that you cannot allow the price to go up, or you cannot allow X, Y, and Z. If it's a free market, why are there powerful players in it who says that they cannot allow X, Y, and Z to happen? Let's keep listening.
Knock that down because it's the fulcrum of the market today. So let's say I were short. What I would do is I would hit a lot of guys with RIM. Now you can't foment. That's a violation of
ferment.
Yeah, you can't foment. You can't create an impression that a stock's down. But you do it anyway because the SEC doesn't understand it. So that's the only sense that I would say this is illegal. But a hedge fund that's not up a lot really has to do a lot now to save itself. So this is different from what I was talking about at the beginning, where I would be buying the Qs and stuff. This is actually just blatantly illegal. But when you have 6 days and your company
blatantly illegal, let's sink it in right there. You think normally people who don't commit crime don't talk about the blatantly illegal tactics?
Maybe in doubt because you're down. I think it's really important to foment. If I were one of these guys, foment an impression that research in motion isn't any good, because research in motion is the key today. So you would hit this guy and that guy when you would see an offering. When you see a guy who's bidding, you'd wipe out that guy very quickly. What I used to do was called, if I wanted to go higher, I would take and bid. And if I wanted to go lower, I'd hit an offer. And I could get a stock like RIM for maybe, that might cost me 15, 20 million, Annie, to knock RIM down. But it would be fabulous because it would beleaguer all the moron longs who are also keen on research in motion.
Beleaguer, so 15 to 20 million, that beleaguers all the moron longs, right, against his position. So people who are against him are morons because he can swing a couple $1 million to manipulate a stock, right? You can judge it however you want. It might be legal manipulation, but he is talking about how he is going to wipe out stocks, like just an entire company or a series of brands that you might be investing as a moron long yourself. Okay, so that's something to remember about Cramer. He thinks you're a moron.
So we're seeing that. That's, again, when your company's in a survival mode, it's really important to defeat research in motion and get the Pisanis of the world and the people talking about it as if there's something wrong with RIM. Then you would call the journal and you get the bozo reporter on research in motion, and you would feed that there's a Palm's got a killer it's going to give away. These are all the things you must do on a day like today. And if you're not doing it, maybe you shouldn't be in the game.
Okay. Another stock that a lot of people are focused on right now seems to be Apple.
Yeah, Apple's very important to spread the rumor that that both Verizon and AT&T have decided they don't like the phone. Right. It's a very easy one to do because it's also, you want to spread the rumor that it's not going to be ready for Macworld. And this is very easy because the people who write about Apple want that story. And you can claim that it's credible because you spoke to someone at Apple, because Apple isn't, and it doesn't.
Right, they're not going to comment. They're not going to.
So it's really an ideal short. And I would, again, if I were short Apple, I would be working very hard today to get that. And the way you would do that is you pick up the phone and you call 6 trading desks and you say, listen, I just got off the phone with my contact at Verizon. And he has already said, listen, we're a Lucky G house. We're a Samsung house. We're a Motorola house. There's no room for Apple. They want too much. We're not going to let them in. We're not going to let them do what they did to music. And, I think that's a very effective way to keep a stock down.
Right.
I might also, by the way, because the stock at 84, 85, a little bit of capital, you go buy some January 80 puts that makes it look like there's going to be something going on. So maybe you give Morgan an order to buy 1,000 Jan 80 puts, then you go position limit with, you use a hat firm that doesn't know what the heck it's doing. Maybe you go to UBS for puts. And you just kind of create an image that there's going to be news next week, and that's going to frighten everybody. Right. Then they all go out and say large put buyer.
He just talked about perception being king, right? He made it clear that there are opportunities for you to go to multiple different sources, multiple different places where you can leverage your influence and then say, let's create this image, let's create this narrative that X, Y, and Z price movement is going to happen, right? Guys, this is the type of canary in a coal mine that you need to pay attention to, because if you think this is FUD, if you think that this is like hedge funds bragging because they don't think they're going to go to jail, this time around is different, right? Back then, this is from 10 years ago, X, Y, and Z. This is not going to be the same story coming back around, because we have we have 3 groups of people. Once again, I said the group of people that want this to be an Occupy Wall Street too, right? They're riding the coattails of whatever stock, be it GME, be it AMC, doesn't matter. The other side is people who want to make a buttload of money, right? They might be greedy, but they're not going to do it in the ways that the hedge funds have done it, right? Like manipulate a stock, drive it to the ground, wipe it out, control the narrative. We're not doing any of that. We're telling the absolute objective truth as far as we can know, and then we have whatever data that they won't give us, like the short interest data. We have to build models and calculations off of whatever public data we do have. So this is the difference between the us and the them, and gives us a chance for at least Cramer to shout out from the coal mine, hey, this is what it's like to live on the other side.
UBS, then they call Pisani again. You have to use those guys and say, listen, I see a big buyer puts, and I'm told that it's SAC. You would do that too. And these are all what's really going on under the market that you don't see.
Right, and nobody else talks about it.
But what's important when you're in that hedge fund mode is to not do anything remotely truthful. Because the truth is so against your view that it's important to create a new truth, to develop a fiction. And the fiction is developed by almost anybody who's down like 2% to up 6% here. You can't take any chances. You can't have the market up any more than it is if you're up 6. Because starting Jan 2, you'll have all your money come out. So what would you do if you're in that situation and you feel like you're desperate? Is that you would do these actions?
So you're talking about the mechanics of the market.
What would you do if you had this pressure? You would do these actions, and the ones that Jim, if he's referencing the ones that he just talked about, it does not look good for him. Maybe not in a court of law, but it certainly doesn't look good for the entire industry overall. So don't blame Jim for being an honest but very sleazy man. Blame the system, right? Take a good hard look at the system that you participate in, and make sure that you understand we are changing it. We are changing it step at a time by financial education, by bringing you guys on board to understand tactics that hedge funds like Jim Cramer can give us insight on. Is finally going to be the last time they can brag about this, right? We are working not only on the 6 bullet points with for congressmen, right? Mason and Austin have been working on this, and they took a break this weekend to hang out with their families, but we are going to be making sure that this goes out ASAP, first to Ro Khanna, and then to other congresspeople that you guys are already putting down in the comments below who you want to reach out to. So let's go back to the charts, but first I want to say thank you for those of you who support this channel, and we will see you in the money.